I'll call the meeting to order. And we'll have an approval of the minutes from the last meeting. Do I have a motion?
We're still working on getting those drafted. Patty had the access to the Zoom, so we're looking to get the recordings and get those typed up, so we do not have the minutes from last meeting.
That's why. Okay, we'll move along to the dog complaint at 7 Myrtle Ave.
Okay, this is one that the board had discussed. I brought it to your attention. Kayla informed us what's been transpiring, and one of the complainants had requested to be put on the Board of Health agenda. I'll let Kayla further explain the situation. But again, as a reminder, I believe the complainant, I believe, should be on, unless I'm mistaken. They are looking for the board to deem this dog dangerous. I do not see that. The dog did get out on a couple of occasions. Again, Kayla can go through that. And did attack a dog. However, just in general, Kayla has been observing the dog and doesn't find it dangerous, but I'll let her further explain and fill the board in. Kayla, are you on?
Yep, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, hi. Yeah, so just to reiterate quickly from last month, this is just in regards to the situation over on Myrtle Ave, 7 Myrtle Ave. There's a dog there that has had some incidences in the past. Each time that Axel does escape, there is always an incident. He ends up involved in a bite. Each time has been involved with another dog. He hasn't bitten a person yet. From what I've seen from his disposition, from person to person, from dog to person rather, he doesn't display any form of aggression towards people. It seems like he just may have some dog aggression towards other dogs. And it's unfortunate that every time he does get out of his yard, there is a bite. And this goes back a couple years where there was an issue with a fence last year where the fence was kind of falling apart. Axel could be seen, poking his head through the holes there. Mr. Rocco, Axel's owner, did fix the fence. He put up a fence that has panels and it's about, I would say, 6 feet tall, where now Axel is fully enclosed. I did provide last meeting to some email threads along with some reports from some of the dog owners that experienced incidences with Axel, including Miss Bonavita and also Miss Wilson. Not too many new developments from last month, just that, yeah, anytime Axel does get out, there is a bite. And Mr. Rocco has done some changes where he won't let him out during school drop-off time or pickup time. That way Axel is contained, so he's not barking at the fence or jumping. If he is out there too, he has an e-collar on him, which is also known as a shock collar. That's just something where if he's jumping at the fence, he can just kind of buzz him. It's like a tap on a shoulder to let him know, to try to get his attention back. During one of the bites, there was somebody who did get nicked in the finger. It looked like a tooth drag almost. Basically, if you're trying to break up a dog fight and you're getting in the way, it's very easy for a dog to either redirect or just poor placement in separating the dogs and end up accidentally getting bit that way. So I'm just reviewing my notes here. And each time that Axel did get involved in an incident, he was quarantined. I know that there were a couple of incidences that did get reported later. There was an incident that happened back in 2017 where someone did state that Axel made it over the fence. That was back when there was the older fence there, not the newer fence here. And I mean, the times that I have monitored the location, I haven't seen Axel been able to make it over the fence or get really close to reaching the fence. He's a 7-year-old Dutch Shepherd. He's a working dog, which kind of explains his behavior. Those types of dogs, they need an outlet, they need stimulation, they need a job to do. Otherwise, it turns into something like this where it's not the dog's fault, but you know, he's so cooped up that when he does get out, he just goes, you know, 0 to 100 real quick.
Okay. Since the fence has been put up, has he gotten out?
Yes. So since the fence has been replaced, he did get out. That was the most recent bite with Miss Wilson's dog, where the front door was left open accidentally by Mr. Rocco's daughter, and Axel made it out the front door and went down the street to where Miss Wilson was walking her dog, which Axel made contact with the dog. Did have a puncture. There are pictures that were provided for that too as well. And once Axel did come out, Miss Wilson stated that Mr. Rocco's girlfriend was running after Axel and got Axel and brought him back into the house.
And I also want to add to the board members, I gave you like an aerial picture of where the house is on Myrtle Street. It directly abuts a grassy area with a paved sidewalk that is right, literally adjacent to the dog owner's fence. So you got parents with kids walking their kids through this access way, and it goes like behind the, you know, senior center to the Bresnahan School. So again, my point being that is, you know, if people are walking and talking, you know, and the dog can hear, the dog will bark. But again, I don't see that to the extent that it's a dangerous dog. But that's the area. I can bring up the aerial view if you want me to, but I did send that to everybody. I know it was late too, but see if I can get it by sharing screen. Okay, yeah. So just stay with me a minute. Okay, let's see if I can do this right. Oh, okay, can't do it while the participant is waiting. But
I did see, we did see it. I don't know if anyone didn't see it.
it's that, yeah, it's the yellow bordered area. That's like his property, and then that area right to the right of it, if you're looking down at it, that's that grassy / sidewalk area. It's a cut through, but actually that's city property. It's part of the city's Newburyport Bresnahan property. I looked that up on the assessor's map. And it's an access way. It's going to be a bit, you know, busy for kids, you know, with kids in the morning, and obviously when they get out of school too, parents picking up their kids and walking them home.
This is Andy Port, just to assist the board. There are some folks who've raised their hand in the audience. I don't know if that's any assistance to the board on the subject matter, but just to let you know, there are some folks who've raised their hands.
I see one. I don't know who usually, I think usually Patty goes in.
Yeah, would you like to accept public comment at this point, or?
Yes.
Okay, the first person we have is Kristen Bonavita. If you'd like to address the board.
Thank you. Is there a way to see the members of the board in lieu of the board agenda by any chance?
We have actually enabled use of cameras. I don't know whether anybody's using any. We do display both generally during the meetings.
Gotcha. Okay, no worries. I just figured I'd ask. So I was the one that initially had brought this to Ms. Provencher's and the director's attention. My dog, Tommy, was attacked in May of 2020. I'm not sure if the members of the board have the opportunity to see that video.
No, we've seen the video.
Yes.
The dog, unprovoked, came running out towards my 9-year-old daughter and my husband, who's sitting next to me, who can give you a firsthand, but again, I don't want to belabor the point too long. Went directly for my dog, hit him over, went directly for his neck. To Kayla's point, I have no belief that he went after my husband, but my husband's finger was nicked in the context of that attack. I did contact Ms. Provencher about the incident. I explained to her what had occurred, as well as the concern that was conveyed to me by the individual who had provided the video, as well as some other individuals who are walking their children to and from school. At the time, she had advised she would allow him to be leashed or would mandate he be leashed, and that she would keep an eye on the dog. We had heard some rumblings that this may have happened previously, but there was nothing concrete. There was nothing specific that I was able to point to, nor was she. At some point, this behavior where the dog actually clears the top of the fence continued. I contacted her back in March of 2000, or this past March, stating that the measures taken at this point are inadequate because he's still able to clear the top of the fence. Ms. Provencher in her email indicated that since repairing the fence, there had been no incidents. That is not accurate. So I do want to go through a timeline of what's occurred with respect to Axel, as well as address the statute. The purpose of this statute, Mass General Laws, Chapter 140, Section 157, is simply there to protect the public. This is not an issue where we should be prioritizing one individual over the mass and over the protection of those in the neighborhood. Understandably, there should be some discretion utilized within the context of this statute. And so I certainly didn't push it with respect to my particular dog, even though in other states and in other jurisdictions, one dog bite is simply sufficient for a finding of dangerous. And again, my understanding is that this hearing is to encourage the board to bring to the city council the issue of whether this dog should be deemed dangerous. If this board is equipped to make that issuance, then I'd be asking that of this board. So to start back in September of 2017, there was an allegation by Ms. Brooks that Axel had leaped over the fence and attacked her dog and was nonstop barking at her husband. That was never brought to the attention of animal control until June of this year. However, we can't ignore that it occurred. So we have our first incident occurring that we're aware of in 2017. What I will note is in that email, which was presented to the board, my understanding from Ms. Provencher, there is a quote from the victim of that incident that Mr. Rocco had commented that this has happened before. Again, I don't have any specific knowledge of anything that happened before, so I'm going to stick to the facts that I have knowledge of. In February of 2020, there were emails from a woman by the name of Darcy to Kayla indicating the aggressive nature of this dog, that he had been clearing the fence. She had provided a video to Ms. Provencher, which shows the dog clearing the top of the fence and kind of coming over by a significant amount. Arguably, it is the old fence. In May of 2020 is when my dog was attacked. I've already addressed that, so I'm not going to go into that further. In December of 2020, my understanding, and again, I do have information that I requested in a FOIA request, which has also been provided to the board, that Ms. Desmond of 5 Myrtle Avenue reported that Axel had broken through the new fence, that he had gone after her, that he had broken through the new fence and that her dog walker was with her dog Blue, and that the only reason something didn't occur further is because the fence he couldn't make it through the whole fence. She is on the call. I'm going to let her speak to that incident because I don't have firsthand knowledge of that. But that was reported. That was reported after the new fence was put up. It was also important to note that she did indicate to Ms. Provencher that a teacher had been injured in the context of that in the past with respect to Axel. Again, I don't know timing. And in the last, I would say, few hours, we've gotten an understanding of who that teacher might be. So in a few hours, we were able to identify what had happened, in the identity of that individual. I've not spoken with her. I don't think that's my job, nor should I be usurping that job from animal control. But I do think it's important to note that that was an allegation that was made back in December of 2020 that, from my understanding, was not followed up on. Lastly, we have the dog attack that occurred in June of this year, where Blue, Ms. Wilson's dog, was significantly injured. These are at least 3 known incidents. The director and Ms. Provencher are suggesting that these are isolated incidents that all happened as a course of an accident. Accidents happen once. When you know you have a very aggressive dog that is in close proximity to an elementary school, to a senior center, and to many other individuals, you take enhanced action towards that dog to ensure the safety of the public. The owner is well aware of his dog, and I want to make sure that the public is safe. And so in order to ensure that, we need to make sure that this statute is utilized. I'm not looking to dictate what animal control does. I think once there is a finding of dangerousness, I think that they are well equipped to determine the parameters that need to be put into place to control the dog and to make sure that this does not happen again. I think it's important to note that these quote unquote accidents have happened with Mr. Rocco's prior dog. In the FOIA request I had asked for, he had a previous dog. And the only reason I bring this up, because obviously his past dog is not necessarily relevant to the current dog, is that the explanation for why the dog got out last time and why the old dog had attacked was that the children had left the garage door open. So we've got a fence open, a front door open, a garage door open, the fence is too low and they replace it. There's always an excuse. This is not a situation where I want to leave this up to chance. This is a situation where the public should prevail in terms of public safety and the safety of the individuals. And in this context, I think that means that we need to talk about putting into play this statute. Again, I would encourage you to look at the video, especially the one that occurred to my dog. While my dog's injuries admittedly weren't significant, the aggressive nature and the predisposition to just attacking is illustrated in that. You hear my daughter, who's 9, screaming at the top of her lungs. I caution the board that obviously there is a recitation by the presentment from animal control that this is not inclined to people, that people are not being injured. The reality is this is obviously a dog that's predisposed to aggression. I would not like to wait until there is a documented person who's injured in the context of this dog until we take further steps. I think it's appropriate, I think it's reasonable, and I think it's for the safety of the public that we impose this statute.
Okay, the next person we have is Steve Rudolph.
Great, thank you. Can the board hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So Steve Rudolph, I live on High Street. Just speaking in support of the designation of the dog as dangerous. I've walked my dog past the property and the sidewalk that was mentioned previously. Have had a number of incidents, not only with the old fence, but the new fence, where the dog is aggressively throwing himself at the fence. Obviously, in the case of the old fence, he was coming over. One incident, which I think bears mentioning, although in full transparency, this did not happen to me, but rather happened to my dog walker, where Rocco was able to make it, and this is with the new fence, which by the way, I confirmed within the last hour. I specifically asked her whether this was the new fence or the old fence. In the new fence, he actually came under the new fence and chewed through enough to get at least partially out and lunge at a dog. Now, he wasn't able to come all the way through, but did come partially out. I've actually altered my route so that I don't go next to that fence because the dog is obviously, it gets very aggressive when there are other dogs present. You know, I'm obviously a dog lover. I in no way wish for the dog to be put down or anything of that nature. But to the point that was made earlier, if what this dog needs because of his prior training, his disposition, etc., is more exercise, more whatever, so he doesn't behave this way, then I would urge the A, the designation of the dog is dangerous, and B, such action be taken so the dog does not behave this way, whatever needs to be done. But there is continual aggressiveness, again, to the extent that I've altered my route where I walk my dog as a result. I would, suggest that based on what I've heard tonight, this is not just an accident waiting to happen because the incidents have already happened. This is a more serious accident waiting to happen. So I would just urge proactive, a proactive stance to this for whatever needs to be done to protect the public and to protect other dogs in the neighborhood. Thank you.
Okay, and before I just announce the next person who's identified as Rich, and then Rich, if you could just give your name and address for the record. Callers, please note that you could press *9 to raise your hand if you're interested in addressing the board.
Hi, this is Belinda Crowder. I live at 7 Myrtle Ave 2 with Mr. Richard Rocco. So first of all, the individual saying that the dog crawled under the fence to lunge at them. I have 2 miniature wiener dogs that can't even get under the fence. So I'm not quite sure exactly how a Dutch Shepherd got under the fence. Second of all, when I let the dog out, he does have the collar on, and yes, he can jump. And his nose can poke over the fence, but he has not gone over this fence. And yes, he does have a very distinct bark. It is loud and it is intimidating. However, if you will look at the city ordinance plans and such, and look at the sidewalk that runs beside the house and behind the house by the community center and by the school, you will see that that is city property. There is also a city ordinance along with the Board of Health that states no dogs are allowed to be walked or on city property, leashed or unleashed. That's school property, public property at all. And the thing of it is to note over on the community center, they have up one of the little poop things for the dogs. So to me, that's instigating them to come back here and walk. Those dogs that are walking by our fence, that is considered school property. They're peeing on our fence on the property, which to me is taunting that dog. So all these little dogs that are so innocent are taunting our dog sense of that. So one, they're not even supposed to be walking over there. I have video of dogs that aren't even leashed running with kids playing basketball. When people are playing bocce ball, I see dogs running free and wild. Plus, I have video of dogs peeing on our property and our fence. So that can of worms can go both ways. So they're breaking the law in the same sense.
Thank you. Next person we have is a phone number ending in 864. If you'd like to unmute, you'll have to press *6.
Hi, this is Julia Desmond. I live at 5 Myrtle Ave, and I've been living in that location since 2004. So I feel that my location has a firsthand view as to what is going on with that fence, and also, you know, my own experience of walking by that fence. It is my dog that was walking by that fence in the winter, and by my dog walker, and Axel, who is the dog that lives at 7 Myrtle Ave, broke through the fence and could not get completely out of the fence and went after my dog walker. My dog walker came back to the house after that event occurred and basically told me, and she works at a animal hospital for 25 years and deals with dogs all day long, said, I'm not going to walk your dog anymore after what I just experienced with your next door neighbor's dog. So I just want to go on record in saying that between what we have experienced living next to the dog and what my dog walker experienced, it's not acceptable that people are in fear walking by a fence, whether it's school property, city property. We should be able to walk in our neighborhoods. One of the things that our city council are striving for is a walkable community, and you shouldn't have fear walking out your door to go take a dog for a walk. And a lot of the neighbors that I have talked to have changed their routes so that they're not walking by that fenced-in area. And, you know, I've known Axel for a really long time, and, you know, he used to be more active in the neighborhood where he would be being, you know, he was out on his leash being run by by one of the people that lived in the house, and, you know, he was definitely more out there in the neighborhood than he is today. Right now, he kind of stays behind a fence, and it's caused some sort of territorial thing, in my opinion. But again, that is my opinion. I do know that there's been an issue with the school and teachers and children being fearful of walking down that path. And I don't think people should have to be in fear of walking down a path, you know, in a neighborhood like Myrtle Ave and the surrounding streets. And, you know, I don't want anything to happen to Axel, you know, that would be detrimental to him. But I do think there's something that needs to be done from a standpoint of addressing the fact that it is dangerous. And, you know, as soon as it gets cold and that fence is able to be penetrated by, you know, the temperature, I think we need to be concerned again. So right now, the fence, from a standpoint of he can't break through it because our temperatures are hot, might not be a concern. Whether he can jump over the fence or not over the fence is a different issue. It was my understanding that Axel was to remain on a leash in his backyard. And that's the last thing that I had heard about, you know, how Axel was supposed to be living in that backyard. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person we have is Steve Rudolph.
I already spoke. Here, I'll lower my hand.
Okay, thank you. Next person we have is identified only as Darcy. Darcy, if you could give your name and address for the board.
Yes, I'm sorry. It's Darcy Hall. I live at 351 High Street. My daughter and I have walked past Axel's fence from 2017 when we started in kindergarten until March 16th or 13th of last year when COVID hit and we started, you know, remote learning. My daughter does not want to go to the park because of Axel. If we do go to the park, we have to go all the way around to the other side of the senior center. If you ride your bicycle past the fence at any time of day, or a scooter, anything that makes noise, he barks. And it the owner's girlfriend, whatever, said, he has a very intimidating bark because that's what he was trained to do. I agree with everything that everybody has said on both sides of this situation. And I don't want anything to happen to Axel either. But it is outright scary to walk past the fence with children at any time of the day. And we just don't go to that park anymore because of Axel. We don't walk up that way, even now that, we can go to the park. We don't go that way. And I have other videos of before the new fence went up. But I know that when there's 2 feet of snow back there, he's going to have no problem jumping the fence. And we can't expect Mr. Rocco to shovel his backyard. Obviously, I had a dog and I would never have wanted to shovel the backyard, but that end of it really concerns me. We don't go there anymore. So that's a shame because we live 5 minutes away. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person we have is Kristen Bonavita. I see your hand raised.
I wanted to say one additional thing, just to point out the statute that I'm asking to utilize in determining him to be a dangerous dog. To everyone else's point, none of us want anything negative to happen to Axel. The statute, all it does is it gives animal control the tools and the ability to put parameters in place that they deem appropriate. So it's not something where you deem him dangerous and you're asking for the dog to be euthanized or something drastic. It is literally, it sets out parameters in the statute designated in subsections as to what it allows the animal control to do and the city to do to protect. So the whole purpose of the statute is protection. It's not to penalize, it's to protect. So that's the only thing I wanted to add.
Thank you. Next person we have, Rich, I see you've raised your hand.
Okay, yeah, I am the dog owner. Okay. First of all, let's get one thing straight. This dog is not trained for any kind of work at all. Okay. This dog is just basically a house dog. He is an aggressive dog, aggressive. Okay. But what I am seeing is people walking their dogs down here, which is a city ordinance violation that is not being upheld. Okay. When I was a police officer here, I was ordered to go to different schools to write people up for having dogs on school property. You walk your dog down here, it's a violation. Okay. Not only that, but I have video footage of my dog out in the backyard with the shock collar on a Sunday afternoon. Okay. Sunday afternoon, someone with a leaf blower on the other side of the property, which, mind you, the fence is 1 foot on my property. So anybody that lets your dog go up to my fence is trespassing. Okay. Has a leaf blower blowing under the fence, leaves under the fence, agitating my dog. Does everybody think that's okay? Second of all, I put this whole new fence up. I've abided by everything the Board of Health have said. From 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. when I'm home, the dog is on a leash in the backyard. From 3 p.m., which I'm mostly at work, when I come home, he's on a shock collar. Anytime he goes near that fence and I'm here, I shock him. I redid the whole fence for this purpose. Now I'm getting senses that people are saying that the dog is going underneath the fence. Please come up here and show me where that dog is going underneath the fence. Okay. I will gladly fix it in a minute. in a minute, I'll fix it. You know, so not only that, but after I had the fence put up, a month after I had the fence put up, I know the dog was outside, he was barking. And I brought him in. I don't know who was on the other side of the fence, but I brought him in. And as I'm looking at my fence, my brand new fence, month old, I look, I said, what's that? What's going on down there? I went down there, and I noticed it was pushed in. So I walked down the side. Someone had kicked my fence, put a hole through my fence that cost me, I will say it, $10,000 to put up. And it cost me another $500 to repair. Is that right? Agitating my dog? This dog, you come in my house, this dog will jump on you, kiss you, love you. He is dog aggressive. I'll admit that, because I had a lab with him. Before the lab, I had to put the lab down. I got 3 other dogs here that are small little dogs. He is fine with them. Not a problem in the world. You know? So if we're going to continue to push this issue about him, which I have, everything the dog health department has told me to do, I have done. Unfortunately, the 2 incidences, yes, I took full responsibility. I took care of the dog owners. You know, whatever they sent, I did what I had to do. Okay. I am making other corrections about the inside of the house where I have an automatic shut for the front door now, where one door opens up, the other one can't be opened until this one is shut. So I'm making all the proper corrections, but everybody thinks this dog is dangerous. He's not dangerous. If you would, yeah, maybe to other dogs he's dangerous, but if you would come up here and actually buy it without another dog and sit and have him come up to see you, you would see he's not an aggressive dog at all. He's just dog aggressive is what they call. So my issue now is I don't want dogs walking down along my fence, peeing on my fence, which is on my property, a foot on my property, taunting my dog. And that's the whole issue here, because he smells that dog. So if this dog walks out in front and he happens to get out, he knows that's one of the dogs peeing on my fence, on his property, marking his territory. And that's, I'm assuming that's why he goes after him. So, I mean, I'm doing everything possibly that I can to rectify these problems. You know, I mean, I don't know what else to say, but thank you very much.
Thank you. And with that, I believe we've had the public comment.
Okay. Does anybody on the board want to speak to this issue?
Yes, if I could just say one quick thing. Just in regards to the ordinance about no dogs being on school property, I do remember from my predecessor that through my training that was mentioned that no dogs were allowed on school property. For example, we would stand at near the entrance of the Bresnahan School just to make sure that parents weren't walking their dogs up with their children. However, I haven't been able to find it anywhere written in the ordinance. I've also looked on the Bresnahan School website too as well. And I've just done numerous Google searches to try to find that verbiage somewhere. I just haven't been able to locate it.
So Kayla, how would you address this issue?
Yeah, this is it's a tough situation. So there's a lot of factors in this. Given the location of where Mr. Rocco lives, you know, the dog is going to bark. The dog's going to jump at the fence, and given his breed and the sound of his bark, you know, it's very intimidating. It can be scary to kids. It can be scary to, you know, just the average dog owner. And, you know, in the past, you know, Mr. Rocco has followed everything that I've said, even down from not letting the dog out during pickup and drop off times. And it's unfortunate that anytime he does get out, you know, there is a bite. So it's tough. I'm not sure really what the best way to go about this is, whether it's somehow to make sure that, you know, while Axel is inside, that he can be secured in a sense that if there's a front door that gets left open accidentally, then there could be, you know, like a extra barrier that would just prevent him from gaining access to outside the house. I do know that the video just, you know, that Darcy Hall brought forward too, that's also a tough one where if a dog is being spoken to, or if they hear even a child laughing, the dog is more likely to engage. And again, given the location of the house, it's just an area where people come and go frequently. You know, it's a tough one. I don't think that Axel can get out of the backyard. I don't think he can clear that fence. Just the factors is that the times that he has gotten out were due to a door being left open or something along those lines. So, you know, I've been trying to think of ways to prevent that from happening. I just think of it as, you know, if we were to do this for every other dog, we'd be putting restrictions on many dogs. I have dogs that have a couple bites here and there. It may not be as frequent as Axel, but I tried to look at the whole situation and all the playing factors in there to try to come up with the best, you know, case scenario here. So I'm not really too sure which way to go with on this one.
Does anyone from the board have an opinion on this?
I just want to chime in a little bit that this is probably one of the most emotional cases that we've had on the board or presented to the board, even though we've had like a lot of big cases, but whereas this just feels a little bit more emotional and, like Kayla said, really tough. I think I want to maybe focus a little bit on the little bit of positive that I heard as a commonality to everyone who spoke to the board, and thank you everyone who did speak to the board. I know that's not easy, given how emotional it is. Everyone did express concern for Axel. My main concern on that aspect is from just looking at what the statute says, it does put Axel on a path to possibly being destroyed, as it's written. And the other aspect I would want to put in is this is a science board. It's the Board of Health, like not everything everyone expresses as an opinion of what can happen, we can sort of just conclude with. But I don't have anything in front of me or that I read that says because A, the dog is aggressive to other dogs, that we conclude B, the dog will be aggressive to humans. It can be, you know, a personal feeling or conclusion, but there isn't anything where I can distinctly say that's what we should conclude. And as Kayla said, there are a lot of aggressive dogs. And I want to say I am a dog owner. I have my 2 dogs behind the screen right now. So I empathize with both sides. Having a dog attacked or having an aggressive dog is a tough situation. I want to ask or present, if this community is this involved with this case, and there's a few people that are familiar with the dog or familiar with the neighborhood that much, and also tagging on to something a couple of you have said, including Kayla, if this dog isn't being walked at all, or isn't getting enough exercise, could there be another approach? Could there be what I've seen in other communities, a community approach to volunteering to help socialize the dog or walk the dog, and that could be an alternative approach. And you all can sort of let me know how you feel about that. But that's what I would like to see first, before, you know, too much animosity continues. I mean, we're all, it's still, this is a community board. We're a community. People are very emotional about their dogs on both sides. So I think both sides can empathize with the other side on that. And I'm going to just mute from there.
I would just like to throw something out in regards to the owner. It appears that Mr. Rocco has taken up every suggestion as to how to deal with keeping the dog from getting out. He's put up a new fence. He's got the doors that if one is open, the other one is locked. And it's not as if he's not trying to deal with the problem. Does anybody else want to comment? Does the board want to take any action? If that's the case, then I would ask Kayla to continue to monitor the situation. And if it's something that needs to have further action taken, then it be brought back to the board.
And Dr. Blair, it looks like Mayor Holliday has her hand up.
Go ahead, Mayor.
Thank you. I was just curious if, I mean, I know that from what Kayla said, that this is a dog that, you know, this is innate in terms of the, you know, type of behavior of this dog, but has there been any kind of formal training or any effort to train this dog? I was just curious, Rocco, if you could address that.
I get the impression that he's not participating any longer.
Okay.
Hands raised.
Rich, are you able to address the board?
Yes, I'm gonna address the board. This dog, the only training this dog has had is obedience training, which was done by me. And I did plenty of obedience. He's got no aggression training. He's got no drug training. He has no police training at all. He is just a household dog that protects his house and protects his land. That's all.
I think Mayor Holliday, I don't want to put words in your mouth. Are you like asking if the dog can like proactive training, like to behave properly? Is that what you're saying? Or?
Well, I know that there is training that is out there that deals with aggressive dogs. And it's clear that, you know, there are tremendous dog owners who are not wanting to see anything happen to Axel. But I am concerned about the number of incidents. I'm concerned about it being next to a school. I'm concerned about the winter, but keeping him on a leash in the backyard should prevent him from jumping over the fence. But I think we're running out of options in terms of the level of concern that has been raised by members of the public who live next to Mr. Rocco. And, you know, it concerns me that a mother and her daughter won't even use the beautiful playground there because they're too afraid to walk by the house. I mean, these are really, concerning statements that are being made by members of the public. So I would ask that if there, I mean, I know there is aggressive dog training and, you know, Officer Rocco, I know that you have worked with police dogs before. I'm not saying that, but I'm wondering if there is a, you know, a program that could potentially, you know, help deal with additional training for the dog. If not, okay, I'm just asking the question. But I think that, you know, you have to be very careful in terms of following all of the recommendations that are being presented to you in terms of leashing the dog, the shock collar. It's unfortunate that you've had to implement all of these things, but I hear what you're saying about 2 smaller dogs in your home and he's good within the house, but we're not talking about his behavior in the house. We're talking about what happens, you know, when he's in the yard, when he gets out of the yard, when there's been accidents, as has been sort of in quotes with opportunities for him to leave the house. And I'm very concerned about another incident that could happen. And I think we will be out of options. And so I'm trying to think of something proactive that could potentially, you know, help Axel. And I don't know if this is something that you had considered, Rocco.
If I might jump in for a moment, I don't know how big your yard is, but can a dog run be put up in the yard whereby he can run around, do whatever he wants, and yet he cannot get out?
That's what happened.
Yeah. I think
I'm waiting for the. Is it my turn to talk? Well, if it's my turn to talk, yes, I have him on a 50-foot lead from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. That was the agreement I made with the Board of Health. He's on a 50-foot lead attached to my porch. So he has 50 feet to go. After 3 o'clock, when I come home from work around 5 o'clock at night, I put him on an electric collar. He goes out and he runs in the backyard with actually not just 2 other little dogs, but we have a puppy here too that one of the other dogs had. And he is out there with the 3 of them having a good old time. He doesn't jump at the fence. I make sure of that. So this is why I'm concerned about all these people coming by saying he's jumping at the fence, because I am the one that's here letting him out at the time, and he's got the shock collar on. The minute he goes to it, I hit the zap collar. This morning, 6:30 this morning, I'm sitting on my porch. He's out there with the 3 other dogs. He's got his zap collar on because it's before 7 o'clock. 2 people walked by with dogs on school property, okay? Which, being a former police officer, I was told to go to the Bresnahan School once, to the high school because there's a dog on the property, and to the Brown School and the middle school, all these times. And I gave these people warnings, okay? And I'm sitting here watching these people, and Axel sat in the yard watching these dogs. Didn't go near the fence, didn't bark. But the other 3 dogs, they want to run them back and forth on the fence barking.
Yeah.
I am taking all precautions. I've done everything so he does have time to exercise. The reason why I don't take him out on the street for walks is because every time I do, someone's going to call on me. It's already happened. My ex-wife took him for a walk before she moved out and everything. My girlfriend took him for a walk, and I got a call because my dog was out there with my girlfriend on a walk, and she barked at another dog. So, I mean, where do I get any, help here? You know, like I said, I'm doing everything I possibly can. I have a little thing on the door now because the last incident, my daughter came in the house, 15 years old, came in the house to get something, left the door open, the dog got out, and it happened. And, I'm taking full responsibility for that, all right? It's my fault, okay? But my 15-year-old daughter is a mess over this. She's in the other room listening to this conversation right now. She is a mess over this. She's in there crying because of this. She thinks it's her fault because of the last incident. I get a letter in the mail on, let's see, from Mrs. Wilson It
On
went out on the
August 5th.
27th. It went out on the 27th, according to this. I get it August 8th. That August 6th, if nothing's done by this, she's gonna, seek legal actions. Well, I would have taken care of this a long time ago if I had known. But nobody comes to me. Nobody came to me. Like I said, I have a spring-loaded door in the kitchen now. The front door hardly ever opens unless there's a package on the porch. The spring-loaded door on the inside of the mudroom before it goes to the outside, so the door automatically shuts now if you open this door. So the other door, if you open the other door and this door doesn't open, it won't be open. So, I've done everything I possibly can, and I'm really concerned, okay, about the gentleman saying this dog went underneath the fence and went after his dog, because I really want to know where this spot is so I can take care of it. I've walked while this has been going on and my girlfriend's been listening. I just walked the whole perimeter of my fence. There's nowhere that this dog could have gone under and went after his dog. Thank you.
Well,
It
appears.
Robin, can I say one thing? Just to,
Yeah, go
Mr.
ahead.
Rocco, I think I just wanted to get back to what the mayor was saying. I've been on the board for, I think, over 3 years now. It's the first time we've talked about a dog, so, there's I think what the mayor was trying to suggest is this is a little bit of more of a troubling situation than just, we all walk by people's yards with our dogs and the dogs in the yard bark. And, there's been some concerning events. And I think the question was, is there something else that can be done to help train this dog to be less aggressive?
Yeah, I want to add to that too, that I'm not a dog expert, and I wish we had one here that was a dog training expert for aggressive dogs specifically. I spoke briefly to a dog trainer after the last Board of Health meeting, and the main part of the training would be exercise. And I know we talked about a run, but if a dog like this has that much pent up energy, it's different from the little dogs that you may have. It's a dog that's going to need walks and runs, and maybe what you're describing is you have a fear of walking your dog in your neighborhood because you feel aggressive sort of attitudes towards you and your dog, and the dog might react to a dog barking in their house or something, and that makes it this vicious cycle of now you're afraid to walk your dog doesn't get walked, the dog gets more aggressive, and then it just continues. So what I'm suggesting is maybe a little bit more community organization to say, okay, this dog is now going to be walked, the dog's going to be on a leash, dog might be barking initially a lot at other dogs as part of the dog's training, but over time will be more socialized, or at least get enough energy out to be less aggressive in a confined space, or just be a little bit more tired to do that. And that's what I understand with my very limited knowledge as what part of that aggressive dog training is. And it may not be an aggressive dog, it may just be a very bored dog stuck behind a fence. And as you said, like smells other dog peeing. I kind of don't understand how it would get any better if you just have a dog behind a fence totally going bored, crazy, smelling other dogs on the other side of the fence, or hearing anything on the other side of the fence like that. I have 2 crazy rescue dogs. I walk my dogs 3 times a day. If I didn't walk my dogs 3 times a day, there would be, it would just get crazy around here. I understand the situation. I've seen both sides of it. I really want to emphasize that there is other things that you can do. I understand also that it's going to require a community acceptance of like, this is the other thing that's going to happen, and that we have to, tolerate a dog being walked that might bark a little bit, or, initially be like, pulling on the leash a little bit until enough of that is done. And so the dog gets a little less aggressive. So I feel for you. I mean, you definitely sound like you're concerned, and I don't want you to feel like we're attacking you or targeting you, but there is probably more to do in a different way. I understand like the house is now a fortress, but like maybe that's not, that may be like detrimental a little bit to the dog.
Yeah, I empathize with the dog owner in the situation as well. I think Mr. Rocco, I just wanted to make clear is that this feels beyond, this feels like a serious situation to me, like it's a problem beyond just, the dog barking when people are going to walk down this road, maybe even by accident. I mean, I think so. I think doing, as much as possible is important here. I think that's the point I was trying to make.
Okay, and just to go over what Mr. Rocco has already said, I think he has done a lot to deal with the situation. The fence, the run, and whatever else was suggested to him, he's done it. And other than putting the dog in training, I don't know what else we can ask him to do.
I think that's the suggestion here, is to, address sort of the dog's condition, which could be related to training, which could be related to being cooped up. One of the people that spoke about their concerns of the dog mentioned how the dog used to be walked. I know that's not easy, but I think that's what we're suggesting at this point, and not taking any particular action at this point.
Could we have Kayla monitor the situation and to see what transpires from here? And then if action is necessary, we consider it. Anybody else have any input on that?
I just wanted to like speak to the community a little bit. It really just sort of, I want to say, if the dog is being trained, at least give that a chance of, that's going to take some time. And it could require a dog being walked. I don't want that to lead to other complaints like the dog's on a leash barking. I've seen that. But
Okay, well, unless there is something else to bring up regarding this situation, then I suggest that we move along without taking any action, leaving it to the judgment of the dog officer. Do I have any disagreement with that? Okay, then in that case, I'm going to close this part of the meeting and move on to the next agenda item, which is COVID-19 update. Frank?
Okay, this is everyone's favorite subject. Yes, the COVID update, we have been seeing an uptick is an alarming uptick? No, however, I did anticipate that I thought that we were going to be leveling off and possibly even dropping, but I just got the latest numbers in. Our positivity rate is a 1.93, still below the state, but it went up 0.02. 14-day average for 100,000 residents went up from 5.2 last week to 7.6. And our total case counts for, and this is a 2-week period. Last week's reporting was at 13. This week's reporting is 19. So that went up 6 cases. And we're seeing the uptick, both in, for vaccinated and unvaccinated people. So that we seem to be in the same trend that, statewide. But again, we're still not over state figures yet. What this is leading to is basically everybody's talking about school reopening. The school committee did meet on Monday night, and the school committee has voted to start the school year with every student and staff, teachers, everybody with the mask on, regardless of being vaccinated or not. And just in terms of when the decision we make to take off the masks, we'll just be looking at the data to see, obviously, that the case load is becoming less as opposed to climbing. So they'll be monitoring the data, and health department is on their medical advisory team as well, that we meet and discuss these, and Dr. Sue's on it as well, so we get some good medical advice on that. Newest thing with the just came out. I get the news as soon as you hear about it. But the booster, where that's going to be, from what I thought I heard, available end of September. And I'm not sure if they're just going to go for the whole general population or if they're going to stage it out like they did the vaccine. I'm assuming it's just going to be to the general public, is my best guess on that. And that would be both the boosters for the Moderna and the Pfizer. So again, I would like to see if the board can discuss just possibly city public buildings to mask up to coincide with what the school committee is doing with the schools. So not like we're going out of turn, and just let the board know there are other communities that are doing the same thing, especially with the schools. They're doing a full mask. And that's my update on that. And I know we have the mayor on. She maybe want to comment or weigh in as well.
Thank you, Frank. I appreciate the opportunity to address the Board of Health. And yes, the numbers are increasing. Granted, they're not dramatic. We're certainly not seeing the numbers like which happened in Provincetown, but we are starting to see, I think, impact. And I'm asking that the board tonight vote to mandate that masks at this point until further notice, and we have data that shows that our numbers are going in the reverse direction, which I think we all were very excited about when we saw zeros for many, many weeks in a row, and then all of a sudden starting to see this uptick. And we have done well as a community, and I don't want us to have to go back and start doing more drastic changes, but I think where to start with in addition to what the schools and what we voted unanimously to support the medical advisory team, which presented, I think, a really good plan. And I know that the superintendent and Sean Gallagher and Lauren McDonald, the new health director for the schools, is on board, as I think you said, Dr. Sue was too, to be able to answer any additional questions in terms of what the schools are doing. But it's a good place to start, especially since I know there's a concern about high school and some of the kids who have been vaccinated, but we're still only in the, I think, low to mid 60% in terms of high school students being vaccinated. Seniors are doing better than the rest of them, but, and again, in terms of encouraging students to get vaccinated, but we do need to, I'm asking you to please move forward on implementing a mandatory mask rule for all municipal buildings at this point. That can be a first step forward as we begin to monitor numbers. And, you know, we all worked together incredibly well last year and set up mandated mask zones in the city. I'm hoping we don't have to get to that, but I've also noted across the city that I'm starting to see an increase in people wearing masks. I've noticed restaurants are encouraging staff to start wearing masks again. I see more people wearing masks as they come into City Hall, as well as to various like Market Basket, et cetera, across the city. And I think if we're going to keep our numbers low and keep our community safe, I think this is a good step forward in asking the board to please mandate for all public buildings. That would be the senior center, the City Hall, the public library, as well as anyone who's coming into the police, fire department. We've already have it for the schools. So I'm asking that you add public buildings, municipal buildings to a mask order until we can get a better handle on this Delta variant.
Frank, do you have anything to say on this?
I agree with what the mayor is saying. You know, at first I was hoping to ride this out, meaning by seeing the numbers go down. But it makes sense, at least to start with the municipal buildings, like the mayor said. So I think that we should lead by example. You know, just telling the public, you know, to all of a sudden, if the numbers do start going up more drastically, just to come out and say, okay, everyone has to wear masks. I think we, you know, start small, start cautiously, like the school is doing. And I think the timing is right too, that, you know, you'll have both the school side and the municipal side all in coordination and having, you know, using face masks. And the other thing too is, you know, I am getting calls from, you know, the directors that some employees are concerned. You know, is this person vaccinated or not? And if they're not, you know, they should be wearing a mask, but, you know, it's not happening 100%. And also my concern is the senior center also, if you have people there that are dealing with the susceptible population, that, you know, they should be wearing masks. And that's my comment.
Okay, now, does the board want to discuss this more, or does somebody want to put forth a motion to require masks in municipal buildings?
I think it's fine. I just want to discuss it, like take a step back and discuss everything so we're all on the same page. I don't know how you all feel about that. All right, I'm just gonna, I mean, I'll talk. You're gonna have to listen.
Is there a public comment portion here, or I mean, there's hands up? Should we? Are we wait?
There's hands up?
Yeah.
I don't see any hands up.
I think if you go to participants, you see the little yellow hands.
Yeah, is there a particular person you'd like to speak initially?
No, I mean, is there, when does that happen? Are we gonna allow public comment here or?
Well, that's up to the chair and the board, of course. You can allow anybody to speak. It's up to the board, so.
You wanna, what do you say, Robin?
Yeah, I think we should let the public speak.
Okay, first person we have is Counselor Zede.
Good afternoon. Can you just confirm you can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. I said good afternoon. I should say good evening. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I do have 4 points that I wanted to make. Number one is, as always, continue to appreciate, the time and effort that the board members are making. I know it's been kind of a long year and a half at this point, but with that said, I do just want to express a little bit of frustration that, there's no real advance notice to any sort of proposals that are being considered. I heard essentially through the grapevine that there would be some consideration of some kind of new mandates tonight. And I guess I'm learning as we go the extent to which they will be imposed, and I'm sure that'll be part of your debate. But on other boards, and certainly on the city council, there's this need to show what the proposal is going to be ahead of time so that people understand what it is and can more confidently participate. So it's just a challenge to jump on a call and speak now. For example, you haven't had your full discussion. I don't know what other motions may be made, but that is a continued challenge. And I'm hoping that you can accept this feedback and perhaps find a way in your agendas, as most other boards do, to provide more detail about exactly what you intend to talk about. And if there are going to be proposals, even include some of those details. So that's my first point. My second point is that I want to express my concern that, the data, which I know that you're very data driven, which of course makes good sense, but the metrics that you just mentioned, are they becoming outdated is my question. If the intent of the vaccine was to reduce the severity of illness, then does it still make sense to just look at a raw number of cases? Does it still make sense to look at a % positivity rate? It seems to me that at the beginning, that metric may have made more sense, but as time progresses forward, does it really matter if there are more cases if many of the cases are not severe or simply a cold, which was the intent of the vaccine? So I did not come tonight to bring to you a multitude of data to present to you, because I believe there's a glut of data out there. Some of it isn't useful. Some of it you can pick and choose from to make a point that you wish to make. So I will leave that to others if they so choose to do so, but rather just to make sure that, there's consideration for when you say the data is going to trend down, what data? And why is that still a valid metric to look at in light of the fact that there are vaccines today? My third point is I'm concerned that implementing these new mandates potentially, really, what is the message that's being sent with those? I think there's some different schools of thought on this. Respectfully to the mayor, I think I would disagree a little bit. I look at some of these, regressing back to where we were in earlier times, not necessarily being taken as, hey, we're being more cautious, but rather as perhaps an indication of a lack of confidence in the vaccine, for example. And when you're on the precipice of having booster shots being offered, as well as going from pandemic to endemic, it's important that, we start treating it differently. We can't simply look at the same metrics and do the same things that we did last year, because that was the whole point of and as the mayor stated, we're in the 60s for high school students, but across the population, we're greater than 70% according to the DPH dashboard, which of course I'm sure everybody looks at. So respectfully, I ask you to consider, what is the message you're sending when you put this out there? And the fourth and final one is just that any decision you make, whether you limit your scope in this iteration to just municipal buildings or even just a few municipal buildings, your decision will reverberate through the community. And to the extent that we have gone to try and reopen things, to try and salvage, some businesses that have been challenged, this is going to reverberate through those things as well. And so whether you choose to keep it narrow in scope, which of course I would urge you to do so if you choose to do anything at all, it's not going to end just there. So I hope that you'll take that into consideration. And even as recently as yesterday, the governor stated there are no new mask mandates being considered at the state level. The public health emergency expired on June 15th, and that is not, as far as I'm aware, coming back in any time soon or any way, shape, or form. So this is a different landscape, and those are kind of my 4 points. And I especially get nervous when people say this is a place to start, implying that folks are going to have to start getting ready for every month, a new wave of discussions potentially, and loss of confidence in some of the strategies that have been used in the past, particularly vaccination. So I thank the board for its time and for taking this public comment, and I hope that you'll consider my comments in your deliberation. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person we have is Megan Kinsey.
Thank you, Andrew. And thank you to the board for taking my comments on Megan Kinsey at 1 Griffin Court. Councillor Z did a fine job of summarizing anything that I would have brought forth before you, but I would like to piggyback on his second point. I want to remain optimistic. I always do, in light of pretty much anything that I'm facing. But in regards to this, I'd love to know, and I'm going to look to you for the answers to this. I'm hoping you have them. The cases may be increasing, and I'm happy to hear that they're increasing at a lower level than I feel like I heard through the grapevine. So that's good to hear. But I would like to know if we as a population are growing more resilient to it, and if it's the vaccines, great. If it's time, I don't know what it is, but I want to know how are we faring with the cases that we have? So what are our hospitalization rates and what are our rates of death? Are we giving ourselves a chance to coexist with this? Is that happening? Or are we seeing Anna Jakes fill up? So, because if it is the former, I'd love to stay the course. The state's doing I feel like a fine job. And unless we are faring worse than the state, I see no reason to change the message, as again, Councillor Z spoke to. But I understand that if we're faring differently and in a more poor fashion, then I guess, yes, we have to talk about it then. But then I would love to know how we're faring. Like, what are our numbers in the hospitals? What are our death rates relative to this Delta variant? And thank you for taking my comments.
Thank you. The next person we have is Nancy Caswell.
Thank you. Nancy Caswell, 3 Jefferson Court, and I have some businesses downtown. I just wanted to speak on, to maybe echo some of the sentiments from Councillor Zeid on the next steps, specifically focusing on the challenges from the last couple of weeks having operated downtown. It's concerning, and I completely understand the piece that, Baker is putting it on all of the local administrations to make their decisions coming off of what's happened in Provincetown and the Cape and Islands. And as somebody who has devoted a good 18 months on working towards better COVID related plans for dining options and indoor dining, I just am slightly frustrated that today we're talking about masking back up in city mandated buildings, or, I understand the school piece, but for the sake of next steps into indoor dining, coming off of, what was Yankee Homecoming and the increase of transient tourists here in the city, as well as coming off of the car show and being surprised that we are seeing, a 2% increase as a shock based on the increased amount of traffic that we had here in the city. And I spent some time this morning reaching out to all of our inns in town to have a better understanding of what their capacity looked like the last 3 weeks, as opposed to what it's looking like in the next 2 to 3 weeks, coming off of our busiest time of year. They were at 100% capacity. And they are now seeing a dip in the next week or two. And again, I think that that would be expected based on transient consumers and people coming into the city, and more importantly, that it would affect those that are vaccinated or not in our community as we walk the streets. I personally feel like if it's to be precautionary, I think that we're moving too quickly to pull the trigger on this. I think that our numbers speak to themselves. If you're following the data, hospitalizations and deaths, the way that Baker and Polito's administration is saying that they are, I don't believe that those numbers are large enough for us to be concerned at this moment. If it's based on concern from where where we're going with it, I think it's too early to tell. And I'm concerned about the way that it's being presented today to this board in a way that let's start here and how it could potentially affect our small businesses and downtown establishments that have been suffering quite a bit. And I just want to echo the sentiment that I think that it should be something that you as the board think about and consider and evaluate in conversation before going ahead and just making a motion to pass this.
Thank you. Next person we have to speak is Councilor Lane.
Hi, thanks. I too would like to thank the board for all the work that they've done over the past 18 to 20 months. I know this hasn't been an easy chore. I can speak to that firsthand. Not to sound like a broken record, I do share the same sentiments of the three previous speakers. I guess my questions are, the metrics we're hearing about, 0.02%, all these percentages, what are some real numbers in terms of what we've had for positive cases? And of those positive cases, how many are, serious instances where there's hospitalization or deaths? I think to act on this tonight would be kind of a rash decision. I get nervous when I hear of, this is the first step. What are the other steps that are being discussed, or are they even being discussed? What is the contingency plan here long term? I also think that the state is doing a wonderful job going upon their guidance. That's kind of the direction I'd like to see is take more direction from the state when they act. I feel like, implementing this too soon or too brashly is going to send exactly that, the wrong message that we're not doing well. When our numbers, are considerably lower than I thought they were. Hearing a 0.02 climb and having to mandate a mask, in every public building seems a little bit, knee jerk. I'm here to ask that you fully give this your due diligence and have a good spirited discussion and not act too soon on this, and maybe get some input from the public as well as businesses, how they feel. Kind of branch out and let's, take a breath here and not just implement this overnight. Again, I appreciate all the work you did, and those are my thoughts and concerns at this point.
Thank you. Chair, that is the last raised hand that we have.
Thank you. So I just wanted to thank everyone that spoke, fully intending on discussing this thoroughly. I just wanted to maybe address some of those questions a little bit and then discuss them with the rest of the board. I did speak to Alex Morris, the town manager of Provincetown, at length about the outbreak, and I also was very pleasantly delighted that our numbers didn't go up from what I expected from Yankee Homecoming, and not so much the car show because it was more outside, but there's a lot of variables here, and I'm just going to present them very objectively just so everyone can have the same conversation. The first thing I want to present that we should discuss as a board is the seasonality of the virus, where we are with that, also the variant that we're discussing and the numbers and what the projections are and what that might mean with our positivity rate, but also what our vaccination rate is. As I forget who presented. We are at a different place than last year, so it's a little bit different what the terrain is, and we have a couple more tools at our hands besides just the masking, including the vaccine. So one, our seasonality, as what it seemed from last year, isn't right now, but it's approaching. So fall was another wave, and the modeling is expecting a peak for Delta to happen in October. And one thing with that, so why there was a cluster, what they call a cluster in Provincetown. Those activities, there's clubs, they're indoors, there's a lot of drinking, a lot of partying, and 60,000 plus extra people each of those festivity weeks that influx in. And then when, these are potentially non-vaccinated people from outside, we don't know, similar to maybe a Yankee, when there's more unvaccinated in the population and then the cases go up, the percentage of vaccinated breakthroughs is still the same, but that number is going to go up no matter what. But if there's more of the caseload of positive cases, we're going to get more breakthrough cases. So that's a lot of what happened there. But they implemented a lot of changes, including masking, mandatory indoors of all businesses, and in a lot of cases also no entry without proof of vaccination. And so now I think the last case that I just got the numbers down from Alex Morris today, and I'd sent the board updates as I got them. The numbers are down to 2 positive from previous. I'm gonna pull that up later. I can't really present it because I don't have it in front of you, but anyway, it was a huge turnaround. So again, I'm not advocating for anything, but when there is a big cluster, there's evidence to show that that can be turned around. And there's also, a lot of other cases for the Delta being turned around throughout the country. Secondly, so when we're dealing with Delta, so here's what else is different from last year. So last year's variant, which we can call alpha or whatever, was R naught of 3, and R naught being part of what we calculate out to being what the herd immunity is and what the herd immunity needs to be for us to keep everything in control. That if you put in 3, so the herd immunity is calculated as 1 minus 1 over R naught. So if you have 3, you need 66 or 67% of the population vaccinated or immune from like previous case, right? So that, and our vaccination rate is what, 70%. So we were pretty okay. So everything under control. Now, if we have a variant with what they said was chickenpox has a R naught of like 9 or 10. I'm just going to say 8. If the Delta has the R naught of 8, you need an 87.5% herd immunity to keep that from replicating. And so we're kind of vulnerable then with the vaccination rate we have. I mean, I don't know what the number is if you add the vaccinations with the number of people that were confirmed COVID positive. And then there's also that like variable of how many of those vaccinated people are not really immune because we were vaccinated in February or March. So how much of that is waning? That these are all unknown numbers. But my concern is, again, like maybe not exactly what's going on right now, but the potential for immunity waning, seasonality climbing, and then the variant needing much more herd immunity to be kept in control that we don't have. I do think you need to have a thorough discussion about this. Any sort of health intervention is not like an easy one sort of like hit and then done in solution. There's unintended consequences and of any intervention, health intervention. We need to discuss maybe a little bit about what those could be. I am a business owner in town. The little difference is that as a dental office, health offices had already by state law a mask order, so you have to already be masked coming in. So my office, does that make everyone masked coming into my office? No, I will tell you, people still come in unmasked because in the summer they're not wearing a mask, they're not carrying a mask, and then, you know, like what you do at that point. So I am a little concerned about that aspect. To everyone's concern, we're not discussing what to do with other businesses. We haven't, that's not what is being discussed. I think the mayor had a concern with particular issues going on in the public buildings that I will let other people speak to, because I'm privy to that. And I think that's pretty much like all I want to present. I would like a healthy discussion from the rest of the board, what their concerns are. And then, you know, my concerns are not exactly, you know, what's happening exactly right now, although the news is maybe a little bit good, but what could potentially happen in the future. And maybe that's a discussion for the future, but that's where my head is at. Thanks.
Yeah, I would like to, you know, just comment on, I mean, I guess I appreciate the comments about the concerns. I mean, I think, you know, for me, I keep thinking about a meeting we had over Halloween, and one of the city councilors said in a very, I think, well-meaning way that, you know, doctors don't want anyone to get sick. And I wanted to correct him, but it was a busy meeting. You know, we don't want people to get sick, but I think for me, looking at it through the doctor's lens isn't about, I don't want anyone to get sick. It's about looking at risks versus benefits, right? Mm-hmm. So what are the risks of the intervention versus the benefits? And I don't see any, I see very little risk to requiring masks in municipal buildings. I think that a vulnerable person should be able to come into City Hall or the library and feel safe. And I think, you know, I think we have to look at this, you know, I think I would break this down into, yes, the vaccine keeps us from getting really sick, hopefully, and becoming hospitalized. I think what we've learned, I think what's different is it may not do such a good job of preventing transmission, right? So masks prevent transmission. I think that in a month, it's too late. So I think you know, someone mentioned, are we learning to live with this? Yes, we are. I don't think we're there yet. I think we'll be there probably 3 to 6 months. But I think right now, you know, all indications are that cases are going to increase. What does that mean? I don't think we really know yet. I don't think we know, you know, what that's going to mean for hospitalizations, although they are increasing. You know, I don't think we know that COVID is, you know, just a cold yet. I think we're going to learn that soon. I don't think we know exactly what this means in highly vaccinated populations. I don't see any harm in I think maybe the word mandate is like, maybe that's the thing that we're like, that word makes people uncomfortable or something. You know, we're just going to ask people to mask up in municipal buildings. I don't really see any major harm to that.
Well, first and foremost, I think that we should be following the state guidelines as put up by the governor. I can understand Mr. Zaid's concerns regarding that if we mask up in public buildings, the next thing is going to be stores and restaurants and so forth. And to me, that's taking a step backwards. So, you know, I have some reservations as far as any type of mask mandates.
While we're on this topic, I just want to add a caveat. One thing we include in the office is the rapid antigen test as just another layer of protection for if anyone is at all symptomatic, to just do an antigen test that I administer. That's part of the agreement with everyone that works for me. If they're at all concerned and have any sort of like minor exposure, we do the rapid antigen test to test if they are potentially contagious for that day, and they will take that the following day and the following day as just another tool. Again, it's just a caveat. We are masked anyway by law and just by practice, but we do have other tools now that we can work with. I think what the public concern can be is just a lot of confusion over like how to work with all of these and like what does it mean, and all of these questions were very, very legitimate questions and based out of just everyone trying to understand the reasoning and like a lot of apprehension over the unintended effect of maybe hurting business, which I understand like 100% is not what anyone is intending. I don't, either way, just like an unbiased view, I don't think municipal buildings are going to reverberate too much into the public the private sector of just what the public will think of safety. I think that more has to do with zoning the downtown as mask only. What did happen in Provincetown after that outbreak was a lot of fear of going to Provincetown, and that did hurt business a lot. And if that's the concern of like hurting business, then you really just do want to make the numbers stay down as low as possible, as as low as we possibly can. But having a cluster outbreak that public, well after those numbers were turned around, that it was still in the news. It's really hurtful for the image of the town, the businesses, even if it's not a legitimate concern anymore. So, we're also trying to protect businesses from that. So just be aware that, everyone's trying to work towards the healthiest community possible.
May I say something?
Go ahead.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Someone's
I
on.
just wanted to present a couple things. The mayor's had a meeting with two doctors about 10 days ago from the Harvard Chan School, Dr. Paul Bidinger and Dr. William Huang, if I'm saying their names correctly, who have done a lot of research on this Delta spike. And they said it is happening, but the extent, as we all know, is the impact is hard to determine, but we know that viral loads are increasing rapidly and in 24-hour periods, and that their recommendation, if you want to decrease the spread of this Delta, then it's important for masks to be worn. I've noted that the hospital, and I've started conversations again with Anna Jake's Hospital, which we did almost weekly during, when all this first happened in March of 2020. They have returned to full masking, have canceled all in-person events, and have gone to full remote meetings. They also are requiring all staff to be vaccinated with the COVID-19 vaccine and a flu shot by the end of October, or they will have a short term to correct, or they will no longer be employed. They're taking a very hard line because, again, Anna Jakes is part of, the Beth Israel network now, but, very concerned about keeping this Delta virus, controlled. The hospital does have cases, and there's been at least one since my conversation that has been med flighted to Boston because of being very, very seriously ill. And these are a mix of people who have been vaccinated and not vaccinated. We still don't have enough people vaccinated in our community at this point. Certainly understand what our businesses have been through and do not want to go back. So if we can start by having, and we're already seeing a lot of people, I would say over 70 to 75% of people coming into City Hall, because we've opened up passports again, are coming in with masks. So we're only asking that people do start wearing masks. We have a senior center that now has opened, and we're working with a very vulnerable population. Granted, that is the highest number of people who are vaccinated, but we're still seeing breakthrough cases. And if there's anything we can do to keep our numbers down and keep our community safe, I have staff who've been reaching out to our human resources department, who Donna Drelick is on the call tonight, as well as people calling my office. I have people at City Hall who refuse to get vaccinated. I have DPS workers who refuse to get vaccinated. I have people in the police and fire department who won't get vaccinated. And I have people at the senior center working with our most vulnerable population who won't get vaccinated. The only option I have is to implement a mandatory mask to try and prevent the spread of this Delta. Hopefully, from what I understand, and I think you have also said this, Sam, is that we anticipate this to surge and be gone hopefully by the end of October. So what can we do as a community to try and help keep people safe, particularly those who are not vaccinated? I have a problem in terms of mandating vaccines. I think it's a lot easier at this point to mandate masks for the public and for staff who are not vaccinated, as opposed to going to some other level. I've also noticed that in 3 restaurants I visited over the past week, all the staff are wearing masks again. So there is concern. And so why aren't we taking a proactive stance? We did back in March of 2020. Our superintendent closed schools on Friday when schools closed on Monday the following week. We were aware of the intensity of this virus hitting our community, and we were going to get on top of it. We did a really good job, I think, between all of us working very hard. The weekly PSAs I did based on all the information from the Board of Health, from Frank, all of us working together from the schools, we've done well. So we know that this next surge is coming. We see the numbers increasing in the state. We know that the UMass Medical Center has reopened Incident Command. That tells you something, that everyone is concerned about this Delta virus. So I think this is a small step to take that will help those who refuse to get vaccinated, who work for the city, to ensure that everyone is wearing masks, and that hopefully within 4 to 6 weeks, we can regroup and we can then say, we've done it, we've done well, we've kept our numbers down, and we can move forward. I don't think this is a negative indication to what's happening in businesses. I've had several businesses call and ask if they can ask staff to be masked. I said, that's your decision as your own business. They don't have the same directives as the people who run dental offices or medical offices in terms of masking, but many of the communities have businesses have stepped up and are requiring masks. But I think that this is an important step to try and keep our numbers down and to keep our community safe.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I agree completely. I don't think masks don't take us backwards, they take us forwards. These are the things that we've learned. Like, we're not gonna go wear a mask when we're walking our dogs around our neighborhoods anymore, right? The things we've learned that masking in indoor crowded public spaces works. Vaccination works. Rapid testing for people with symptoms works. PCR testing for people who are asymptomatic exposures. I mean, we have all these tools now. We've learned all these lessons, right? We know what to do now. We're not staying home. We're just doing some very practical, common sense things here to kind of limit transmission. The other thing is, if you're sick, stay home, right? So, we don't go back to March of 2020. We're not talking about that. We're just talking about some common sense things here to limit transmission and keep people as safe as possible while we live our, normal lives, right?
Thank you, Dr. Slocum. Just to add to that, I think that you see the changes in what we've done in the schools. We're requiring masks because we don't have enough of the high school students yet vaccinated. Not sure about numbers of teachers at this point, and maybe Superintendent Gallagher or the health nurse, Lauren McDonald, could talk to that. But by requiring masks in the school, but we're no longer sending people home to quarantine in terms of contact tracing. What we have is stay in testing. We're doing the rapid testing, and we also have the opportunity to, the definition of close contact has been narrowed so that we don't anticipate having to quarantine a whole classroom or a cluster that could potentially happen in the schools. We'll be able to do the rapid test. We'll be able to test people who have been in contact over a 5-day period and on a daily basis. So it's called Stay and Test, which is a new program that the schools have instituted, and we are implementing that in the schools. So I think it's very clear that we are moving forward based on the data, what we've learned, and making adjustments in terms of what we're doing in the school district.
It looks like Councilor Zede has his hand raised.
Thank you. I don't know. I apologize if I don't know the etiquette here. If you're interested, I would like to just say a couple more things. I guess to keep it very brief, I just want to reemphasize my second point, which is we keep saying the words, the numbers, and Dr. Marabi spoke a lot about R0, which is, of course, extremely important number. But this is where, to me, the goal and the messaging has gotten a bit muddled. So I understand that you can derive a figure that tells you the percentage you need vaccinated or otherwise naturally immune due to previous infection to stamp out the virus. But if my understanding is correct about what is the messaging today, the messaging is not that we're ever really going to get rid of COVID-19 100%. So I don't know why we would talk about needing to have 87% vaccinated. You know, we need to think about, again, what is the line we cross when we go from pandemic to endemic, when this is just a thing that exists. And unfortunately, we have it. We wish we didn't, but here it is. And so where in sort of common sense is that, yeah, we do kind of go back to not air quotes normal, but normal, and that there is some level of risk attributed to that. I think that that's something that should be discussed, but I'm getting confused into what is the goal now. So when we say the numbers, we're referring to, again, things that I think are less relevant today because we're talking about cases and positivity rates, which are both very broad metrics in a world where a vaccine exists. Number two is there's no Delta vaccine being worked on that I understand, meaning a vaccine specific to a Delta variant. And by the way, Delta, of course, will not be the last. There'll be Lambda and whatever else comes after it. So we're talking about the numbers. And then third one is, you know, I understand that this notion that masks, you know, don't necessarily have a cost, that there isn't a harm from them, but you know, we're not really talking about the schools today, but they've been wrapped into the conversation. And I do believe that there's a cost, especially for younger kids, you know, with respect to things like speech language development and so forth, by not being able to see the full facial expression. So I'm not bringing that up to throw a monkey wrench in, you know, that's a discussion perhaps for another day, but it's germane only because others have brought it up. So this is where I get confused about the messaging. So what are the numbers we should look at? And then throwing out there that maybe by the end of October, this goes away. Under what circumstances, what numbers, you know, is 1.93% positivity not acceptable? Is 6 new cases in a week not acceptable, even if 5 of them ended up being relatively low tests, patients stayed home, had really moderate symptoms, and essentially, you know, stayed in bed for a day or two, rested up and got back up and got back at it? That's the question. So this is where I get confused about kind of the metrics and what is it anymore that we're looking at. And I think we personally should be focused more on severe or cases like was said that have led to hospitalizations and so forth. So thanks again.
Okay, I just want to respond. The reason that I present that the cases are likely to continue and how they're likely to continue is because there's a lot of confusion that because there's a vaccine that it's over. It's a hard, and I think Rob touched on this a little bit. We're still not at a point where we understand how this is going to play out. We do know this is going to continue because not everyone is vaccinated or not everyone has an immunity where this is going to not continue. The mayor's concern that she presented is that there are unvaccinated people working in the municipal buildings and in some cases with a vulnerable population. So that's enough to assume there's going to be potential deadly exposure. Even if the population is vaccinated, older population, not necessarily going to produce viable antibodies or an immune response that is protective. There is a low hospitalization of vaccinated populations, but it's still there. Delta is a concern because its reproduction rate is so high. But as you said, there are other variants that are immune evasive. So those immune evasive variants, if they were to combine with a genetic mutation that makes them also more contagious, would be, sort of like bring us back to zero. And I know it's very frustrating to talk about these things, and I can hear your frustration in your voice. We're not in control of any of these things, but we also can't be irresponsible and not pay attention to them. Where I think Rob touched on, wearing a mask, the risk benefit is where, so you really analyze what the intervention is. What are the costs? So if there isn't any real cost presented or real, negative outcome to wearing masks in a municipal building, and then the benefit is potentially, life-saving, that's how we would analyze a viable intervention. Then you can argue like mandating or not, and I'm open to, if it's not super urgent, we can have a broader meeting. But I just want to go back to, I don't want to forget what your questions are. What the numbers are, I think the confusion is that what are the numbers that are concerning to us? And so that's not really what's concerning to us. The science is what's concerning, of, even though the numbers are low now, again, our seasonality is not really there for this to go up. So what the indicators are is, what's happened in other populations that show what the potential for Delta can do to this community. And then I think your other point was, well, shouldn't we just get used to it at this point? We're vaccinated. Yes, but we're not at the point in the vaccinations that we know what the vaccinations are going to do, especially even with or without a booster. We don't know how protective those are. I was vaccinated early February, final dose. I have a colleague vaccinated a week after me who tested positive for Delta. Is he in the hospital? No, but he's also not very old. So there's a lot of things that we have to be responsible for that we don't know what the answers are, but it was there. And that's what, it's a little early. Like I remember saying this a year ago, we have to be a little patient and sort of just still see what's happening, but also not sort of like let it not have a laissez-faire attitude where like, no, it's over. We have vaccines now. We can do whatever we want. That's the wrong perspective. We don't know a lot of things yet that we have to know before we can get there. I don't know if what Rob said was, we're going to find out in 2-3 months. I don't know, we're going to find out in 2-3 months, but we're going to find sooner once we, sort of see the full year of what the immunity from the vaccinations is. And then, like the potential other segment of the population getting the virus and then subsequently getting some level of immunity from that too, ultimately is helpful, like if it doesn't kill them, but, and then the other, dark cloud over this is, there could be another variant, but that variant could be a lot worse. And when we do have all this immunity and we do have all this protective layer, that's when a virus is then pushed to a mutation benefit that can evade immunity and continue. And an example is, we don't know every year if the flu is going to be really deadly or not, right? So like we get the flu vaccine to just keep the numbers of the flu down, but there is, and there has been ever since I went to public health school, like the main concern was like there might be a huge flu pandemic again, a very immune evasive sort of novel flu that's going to be more deadly. And that may be just like something that we worry about, but not really have to do much with. We're not at that point yet, but that's probably where it's going, if that's what you're wondering. And but we have to see if that's not like an immediate situation. I mean, I hope I answered the question somewhat, but it's, it's science. There's no answered questions. There's just more questions.
Robin, as chair, just to let you know, there is another one with their hand raised, an attendee.
It's okay.
Reza?
Yes, hi, how are you? Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
My name is Reza Rahmani. I own Bar 25. New to the community. I heard everybody's point, and I just wanted to very quickly. I appreciate that. Above all, everything that's being said is really to protect public health, and obviously, I don't think anybody can object to that. But to Councilor Zaid's point, I don't think he's being laissez-faire about people being vaccinated, so just let things go. I believe even to the mayor's point is that you see people are wearing masks. So I think to the councilor's point that this is with us now, and it's going to be with us most likely for the rest of our lives. And just like the flu, we are probably going to see different variants of it, is that now we have to become responsible, and it comes to personal accountability on this. And I don't think anybody is taking COVID lightly, especially the business community. I know it scares the hell out of us, and the unknowns mostly, and probably because of what we all went through, and we definitely don't want to see another round of that. But I just wanted to kind of put support towards the council's point on this, because I just think it's being seen as and forgive me for saying this, an irresponsible approach, but I don't think that's what he's trying to say. I think he really is trying to say that we are now responsible for this, we're accountable for this, and more. And I think the reason why there isn't a central mandate on this is that they're putting it up to communities. If the communities are being responsible and doing a better job than some other communities, and I think that's why I think that decision making has been put to those. And if Newburyport has been a community that's been good about this and responsible, I just think forcing a mask mandate could send the wrong message as well. Thank you.
What if we just take a moment and just think about the places that we're talking about, right? Like the library, right? Lots of kids go there, the senior center, elderly people. We're not talking about, bars and restaurants. We're talking about very specific places.
Yeah, I agree. I don't see the connection. I mean, I understand the fear, but I don't see that hindering business at all. And I mean, I'm saying that as a business owner. I don't see that mandate, just like I don't think the school mandate it doesn't cast a shadow over what people feel like the town would be like. But I understand everyone in the business sector worried about this. I don't think that's what we're talking about at all. That's a whole different discussion. Certainly the kids are not vaccinated, and we're not having a discussion about that. But if there's a particular connection that I'm missing, that please go ahead.
If there's restaurant A and restaurant B right next to each other, and restaurant A, all the staff is wearing masks, and restaurant B, none of the staff are wearing masks, I'm going to go into restaurant A. Just for the record, I'll feel more comfortable there. But so, I mean, you can make that argument either way, right? That, I'm not saying that you're making that argument. I'm just saying, like, masks maybe are good for a business for all we know, right?
Right, and we're not talking about masking businesses either. I mean,
oh yeah, of course not.
Right.
Of course. I'm just saying, like, it doesn't necessarily.
I think the fear is that, if it's the start, that was not our verbiage. I think we're just really just talking about these specific concerns, which, I mean, I have heard for the first time today also. So, particularly the buildings where people are receiving care, I think that just still qualifies under healthcare in the same category. People need to feel safe. And I agree with the business owner said that it's a personal responsibility at this point. It is a personal responsibility at this point. You as a business owner can mandate things for your business, but municipal building really is, it's up to the municipality now, right? So like I as a business owner set forth certain restrictions to keep my staff safe and my business safe, but the people in these facilities are now relying on us.
Robin, Byron Lane has his hand raised.
Hi, thanks. Just wanted to, it's not so much the masking of restaurants or, restaurant A or B. And for the record, I'd probably go into either one of them. It's more of the message that's sent. The last thing I want to see is, the Daily News printing, oh, due to an uptick in COVID cases, there's a new mask mandate in Newburyport, because those are the bits and pieces that are going to get chewed off. So that's really where I'm coming from with the implications to business. That's just, again, I just don't want it to be misconstrued as, we're facing, an uptick and bad information, and thereby nobody comes here until we undo this. That's all.
I agree with that. I think that messaging is really important in this entire thing is really like hinges on good messaging. I don't think that's happened. And I think that's why there's so much confusion, and it's a confusing topic to begin with. I don't know what the control is over what the paper prints. I think really good press releases are helpful with that. We have a lot of positive things to present. The negative things are potential things, but a lot of public health is just preventing the potential, right? Like also, if we're very successful in preventing something, there's not really going to be that much evidence of that. And it's actually usually a backlash against public health. Like this was useless, like fluoride is useless. Vaccines were pointless, like because we've had so much success, right? So in public health, you're just sort of used to that you don't get the credit you deserve. But, I don't know if any of you have expertise in messaging, but we can sort of get on top of that too. I mean, if the messaging could be very pro Newburyport and very safe, like come to Newburyport, that would be ideal.
I'm going to jump in here. Again. I think our messaging has been really positive. We've done last summer, we did a video to bring people, you bring the mask, we'll bring whatever. And I think that was part of the success of people coming to Newburyport, because they saw that we took the virus very serious. And I think we saw the hits on our website. We saw people looking, they saw the mandatory mask zones. People were thrilled with that downtown on the rail trail. We're not anywhere near that at this point. I mean, I have no intention of going in that direction. But again, knowing how fast this Delta virus can surge and how it can change once it hits someone, who's especially is not vaccinated, and the fact that I appreciate you recognizing my concern about safety of all staff and coming into any public buildings. We have a media consultant that we work with. We absolutely can do a really positive, messaging on this. As you know, I've probably done close to 70 PSAs since all this started on the local media. I can certainly do another one next week and focus on, why we're doing this as a precaution, that, numbers are not soaring really rapidly, but we want to keep them that way. We want to keep our numbers down. Just, to let you know, today I was shocked. I got a beep on my phone that said that I was exposed to COVID. And I called Frank, I said, what? You get up here and look at this messaging that through my Bluetooth. So, that I was exposed to someone who was positive, and thank goodness I am double vaxxed. But I also have to be careful and watch for symptoms over the next 5 days. And I'm really very concerned about what we're seeing across the country. And, we took proactive steps when this first hit in our city. And I think our numbers and our success shows that. So I don't think that by asking, because of the vulnerable population at the senior center and those who come into the library and are coming into City Hall, as I said, I've been very pleased to see the numbers of families coming into City Hall, particularly for the passports and the clerk's office, are all masked. So I think people are paying attention to the news. We have, I think, a pretty savvy community who is paying attention. And I think that we need to go back to having masks in order to, I passed them out at the city council meeting because I was appalled at the numbers of people who are in a small, hot space. And I started passing out masks to people at the debate last week. At the school mask zone, people showing up without masks, asking people to please wear masks. We have to do what we can to protect all of our citizens and to prevent this Delta from taking surge in our community as it has in other places. And granted, the probability of that happening is probably lower because of our vaccination rates. But do we want to take that gamble when we have the opportunity right now to add another layer of protection in terms of masking?
Is there any further discussion? Does the board want to take any action at this time? It appears not.
Well, what's the options?
So it's either we continue this discussion to a broader discussion next time, or we vote today.
And the vote would be for masks in public buildings. Is that correct?
All public buildings or specific public buildings or?
City buildings.
I mean, the senior center particularly, I think we might want to do today. And then, I mean, I can't wrap my head around everything.
What are we talking about? We're talking about the senior center, the library, city hall, police station, fire department. Is that what the mayor said?
Yes.
That's it. For all city public buildings. And again, not any businesses or anything like that.
And I'm assuming that's going to include the Public Works building.
Yes.
Yes. And they're around a lot of people as well on a daily basis.
Sam, you want to take a vote?
I don't know what all of that is. I feel a little bit overwhelmed. I mean, I understand.
4 weeks to vote on this?
Well, I have the library and the senior center probably is like a huge concern right now.
And
like, it doesn't
City
make
Hall,
sense.
please. City Hall too.
Can we? Okay. Does like.
How about that's a compromise? City Hall, the library, and the senior center we vote on.
Okay. I mean, yeah. I particularly I just want to say I particularly understand the library, the city hall, based on what we discussed right now. If the incidences of what we talked about also are happening in City Hall, then that I'm not aware of, that's fine too. When you just say like every city building, I have no idea what we're talking about.
No, I think what we've done is we've narrowed it down to 3: the library, the senior center, and City Hall. And then if at a later date, other municipal buildings should be considered, we'll consider them at that time.
Okay.
Mayor has a hand raised and
What was that, Frank?
the mayor has a hand raised.
No, I don't. I thought I lowered it. I think I've indicated those would be the priority buildings, and that would be compatible with what's happening in the school district too also. So I would appreciate that vote, or, for you to consider that vote. Thank you.
Does anyone want to make a motion?
Motion to require masking in City Hall, the senior center, and the public library.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So moved. Now, let's move on to something else. Frank, a general department update.
Okay, been very busy, obviously, especially with Patty's retirement, which came up pretty quickly. We're in the middle of, permitting. We just did our annual fiscal permitting for the establishments. We had a few that opened up, about 25. Battleground Coffee on Pleasant Street. And there were another bread baking company working out of Changing Tides on Pleasant Street as well. And we had the Angry Donut open their second location on In Street where the Purple Onion was. We were quite busy there. What else? I have Pam on vacation this week as well. So I'm taking over the duties for Megan and watching the cases. So that's about it for general office update. Office manager update. We had a lot of applications and we went through first round interviews and we have second round interviews coming up this upcoming week. We have, I believe, 3 candidates, and actually we're in a good position because it's going to be looks like a tough decision to make. So we're going to get some well-qualified people in here. So hopefully by the following week, we should have that person started, which is much needed right now to be kind of all straight up. That's it for the department right now.
Is there anything else that needs to be discussed?
Nothing new that has come up unless the board has anything they wish to address.
The only thing I wish to address is the scheduling of the next meeting. Now, I'm going to throw a monkey wrench into it because the third Thursday is the 16th, and the third Thursday happens to be Yom Kippur, so I will not be available.
So the option is to have it either, this Thursday seems to work well. So the 9th, which is only literally a couple weeks away, or push it to the 23rd.
I would say the 23rd because of what you said, that it's so close to what we're doing right now.
Apologies, this is Andy Port. Just to note for the record, because I am at least currently covering your Zoom hosting coverage. If you need me to do that, I do have, looking at the city calendar, another meeting at 7 o'clock that night. So unless you would have someone else who can perhaps host, If you needed me to do it, I would not be able to do it at 7 because I would already be hosting the meeting.
Frank, do we have anybody else that could do it?
I could also do it on the 14th if that's on like the evening of the 14th. I mean, part of these issues were we didn't want to use other people's rooms, but like, can we just have more freedom now because we're doing it on Zoom? Or am I wrong?
I don't understand why not.
We only did it on Thursdays, Sam, because that is our late night here at City Hall, but I don't have any issues for, any other day.
And since we're Zoom, I don't think it matters which day of the week we have it. Unless, of course, there's an individual has a conflict. So, the 14th is an option. Does anybody else have another one?
The week before is Rosh Hashanah, so I don't think you'd be able to do that then. So I can't do the 15th. I'm available the 17th and then the 13th.
This is Andy again, and just to remind you, and apologies, because I happen to be involved with so many evening meetings. If you need me to host, I do attend the city council meeting, ZBA, planning board, which would be the 13th, 14th, and 15th. And I'm also attending a meeting on the 16th. So I trying to keep you advised if you need me to do anything. I may not be available at the time you're trying to meet. So
Monday the 20th.
Just to let the board know is, I'm hoping that the new hire, the new office manager, that person will be filling in as clerk of the board and, scheduling via the Zoom meeting. So that's my plan moving forward. So the next meeting, I was hoping that our new office manager would be hosting it and running the Zoom.
Okay, could we make a tentative date, but if not, is Andrew, are you available on the 20th? Is there
the 20th I can do, the 21st I could do, if you'd like.
I'm good with either of those dates if anyone else wants.
As well.
Yeah, as am I. So we want to call it for the 20th?
20th at 7?
Yeah.
Okay.
Unless otherwise noted.
Okay.
Okay, on that note, would anybody like to adjourn the meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Let's go, gentlemen.
Good night.
Good night.
This was a long one.
Yeah. And Rob?
I need a massage. All right, good night.
Rob?
Yes.
Happy birthday.
Oh,
hey,
happy
thanks.
birthday,
Thank you very
Rob.
much. Thank you.
I'm so sorry. This is
Happy
your
birthday.
Well, we celebrated last night.
Great. Cheers. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. See you.
Okay.
Hope you have a good
All
tomorrow.
right. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Andy, is that it? Anything else I need to do to close this out?
No, thank you. I can follow up with you on Monday about it all.
Okay, appreciate it.
Sure, we'll get you the link to the recording and so forth.
Okay.
Okay. Have a good night.
Thanks very much.
Sure.